All right, welcome to lesson 8, H Radio 123 part-timers. Name is Chris. As you know, we have contact on a WhatsApp group. And if for whatever reason you are not a short course, a part-timer that still is not on the WhatsApp group, please go to Call Campus. You'll see there's a direct link to the invite, and you can just join there. Okay. So, week 4, lesson 8, radio 1, part 2 of 8. We're going to continue with the next level radio textbook from Cullinan and Nash. Cullinan and Nash, there we go. Chapter 3, Digital Formats, page 86, and Delivery Methods for Multi-Platform Content on page 89 and 93. 293, should I say, right? Okay, so this lesson I tend to want to see how it goes, but I'll probably do it in 2 lessons or 2 parts. Just depends on how much I land up talking. But let's get into the lesson itself. We are going to be speaking broadly about the digital formats and the digital space, and how obviously it is important to you, as you've been hearing. Well, I think predominantly from all your lecturers at this point. We are still obviously in first year, so let's introduce you to this a space and why it's important, quite likely, specifically in radio, right? Okay. So you know that you are obviously quite active on social media in the digital regime, right? So the digital era, the golden age of digital is what we currently are in at or are at in. I don't know if that's whatever. I sold that as proper English, right? But you know, you have been active at least on one social media account. So be it TikTok, be it Instagram, be it on X, or be it on LinkedIn or YouTube or even Facebook, ideally Facebook business, right? Because you are building a brand, right? The part-timers are, presumably working, so you would know more about this from your brand that you're working for, the corporate space that does need social media. Even if we look at the digital space in terms of landing pages, web pages, your company 10 does have a website where people can go and track them. They are in the Google sphere. So in Google Business, they're mapped on Google Maps, you know. We have to know that it's not that you are going to escape digital. There's just no way that you can. It really just adds a lot of value to our current lives. There's a lot of clutter, maybe too, but we could say that at any one point in human history, that there is too much of something and too little of something else, right? The digital space is really important for us as media practitioners because, of course, that it's a media space at the end of the day. So whether it's written or whether it's visual or it's audio in terms of podcasting, whatever it may be, the digital space is how we've now found to add value and obviously extend the lifespan and the presence of a brand or a product to not just our listeners, of course, but to the global community and the global our global potential listeners. You never know, right? Consumers, I would say, at the end of the day, online, you consider a consumer. Digital format is any content, of course, that can be represented, stored by binary digits, zeros and ones. So what you might have seen in movies, or maybe you, like me, you study computer science at school, and obviously, I say obviously, I think I've mentioned this before. I have studied it tertiary, but zeros and ones, yeah, are where the basis. It's the building block. Really, one and the building block is zero that defines everything, and that we produce everything digitally, right? So this means that content, text, sound, pictures, videos, anything that we put there, it's produced in a digital form that can be transferred from one PC to another without getting into the semantics of how that actually works, because this isn't computer science, this is radio, right? So we talk about the digital age, which we are now in. We are uh, uh, everyone, anyone, I would say, mostly pretty much anyone has some kind of access in the digital space into digital platforms or a digital device in some other way. And yes, I'm looking at, let's say, the modern world. So we do have large portions of our world that are, that are very, I would say, nomadic, or again, just very rural in whatever sense, right? And well, we're not assuming that they don't have access to TVs or radios or prints or whatever it is, and even phones, just because you live in a more, like I said, sect culture, right? A sect of culture. Okay, now it's not only easier for listeners to access radio stations and audio products from anywhere and at any time, but the barriers to entry for new independent radio stations to enter the audio business have never been lower. So that just says that, listen, I mean, stations at any point, so they're online stations or they are live streaming stations or whatever it may be, have now just access to the net and can host themselves there, where anyone that's a consumer that feels that their content is relevant, interesting, informative, or entertaining can be something that I can consume from anywhere, and it can come from anywhere else in the world. So these stations, quote unquote, have the ability and opportunity to create content and radio in a variety of formats and styles that obviously cater to very vast markets within the world or the global market, right? So you can see the note, the little like the little quotes there for stations and radio, because we say that anything that is online is not, if it's a purely online platform, it's not considered radio. Radio is an FM or an AM frequency or a DAB frequency, right? Whereas that is a streaming service. Whether you might confuse that, might confuse the large umbrella term of a streaming service, as, let's say, our Spotify's and our Apples, etc., our music um, streaming services. We have streaming services that are video, right? So we know that we can watch stuff on, online. So our Netflix and our Showmax, etc. We can just stream videos from, let's say, Amazon Prime. But we also can stream radio, and there are just an endless amount of online stations that we can actually choose from. The most obvious digital format of an audio experience is when radio stations just simply stream their own station. So we have an AM or an FM frequency, and of course, we obviously are available online as well. So as you know, like, you're not restricted to, let's say, a certain community, a certain feeder area, a certain radius, or a footprint, but you are rather also able to access any station in this country just by hopping on one of the most basic, simplest. I think it actually comes with every single phone has a little bit of a radio app. There is a radio. There's still a one of those very classic legacy. I think it's a radio extension where you have to put your earphones and you actually tune into different frequencies. But what we do is avoid the mess and basically just have the most basic, let's say, radio streaming app. Like, for example, Radio ZA is very popular. It's something that I use. It's dependable. It's got a lot of pop-up ads, whatever it may be, but it does the job, and it isn't, there's no low quality, should I say, experience when using it. Anyway, these streams are available on the station, obviously, by the website, the landing pages themselves, or it's streamed via Iono, or again, like I say, through these apps, third-party websites, right? So you can use TuneIn, very popular third radio, or a third party, should I say, streaming app, Radio Player, Simple Radio, and Radio South Africa, which is this one that I just mentioned earlier now, which I use. Okay, so popular radio online streaming website directories, so web-based lists of links and information can also be included from Radio Tower, webradio.fm, Stream Finder, and Penguin Radio. So you can go and have a look at the mass amount of online streaming or online radio station streaming services from these lists here, and you can go and expose yourself to a large variety of how the world is quote unquote doing quote unquote radio, right? So one of the very again, the legacy platforms is iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio launched their iHeartRadio All Access app in 2017, At a certain point, iHeartRadio was even going bankrupt at a certain point. It was many years ago. I think it was just pre 2017. Very, very popular, but wasn't making any money. And as the world changed, and I'm guessing obviously their business plan and their model or whatever it is also changed. And again, obviously this kind of demand for streaming services also just exponentially started to procreate there in the global community. iHeartRadio started to like just find their strength again, find their footing. And again, it's just one of those great platforms. That really, really just say high quality. It's a good product, man. All right, so what can you do? You can skip songs while playing that you do not like with unlimited skips. And you can save songs from the radio to your playlist. It's also ad-free radio. Instantly replay songs that you might like. You can listen offline at any one time. That obviously is more appropriate for you. You can get unlimited access to millions of songs, and you can create unlimited playlists, which is obviously why Spotify, for example, is so. I mean, it's just so attractive for so many people. I mean, the free, obviously, the free version of Spotify, free version of Apple iTunes, whatever it may be, still does enough of a job that you don't really need to pay for a subscription. It really does do a great service in terms of that. If you want to go premium, I'm not going to speak as though I know it. I won't pay for it because it does just what I need it to do. And there's also so much out there that you can also just choose from as well. So if you're not getting it from some from one place, you can get definitely what you're looking for somewhere else. That's just the beauty of the digital age, right? Another popular streaming strategy is to create different formats as offshoots of the mother radio brand. So, for example, we'll have, let's say, a terrestrial radio station, and they might, let's say, extend the product digitally, So, again, for example, they might want to do, let's say, a completely like an adult rock station or a classic station or whatever it may be, right? Where they will have real presenters, I'm saying real time presenters, but it is completely independent of the actual core product, right? And still an extension of the brand. For example, in the UK, Absolute Radio, which is a rock adult contemporary radio station, has streaming and digital audio broadcasting, so DAB streams that are called Absolute Classic Rock. There's Absolute Radio 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and obviously what they say is the noughties, the 2000s, right? And Absolute Radio Extra. So a large amount of extensions from the core brand, so Absolute Radio. And then they go and they extend. So you can go and say enjoy. Well, the more you enjoy these sister brands, I would say, right over here, is the more loyalty you have to the Absolute Radio brand because you're going to be getting what you want at any one particular time of what you might be feeling. And maybe I feel like an 80s week or a 90s week or a rock week or whatever it may be, right? So these are either music only radio stations that are based on the genres as defined by these particular ones that you see, like a 60s station. So it's only 60s. You're not going to get like a mix that you'll find on a commercial or a community or terrestrial station, right? I don't think we have very particular 60s or 70s or 80s stations, right? But a bit of a mix, right? But anyway, or there are stations that use the content from Absolute Radio, but every time a song is played, it differs in genre and format on each stream. So it gets a bit complicated as well, right? Or complex, should I say. Well, this gives the listener ultimate power in tailor making that whole experience, like the music content that they're picking. You can even mix it up with like live content that you want to do, presenters that you want to listen to, and really create a really customized, catered product for yourself, right? As you move through these particular services that are available. We can also go include news, weather, sports, traffic information, whatever it is that's happening in real time, give you those alerts that you can just kind of keep streaming in there and it'll just pop up and then when I say pop up it'll just go well, it'll just play right because it's part of your customized little product that you're making up there, right, you're putting together in a speech format space. Podcasts, of course, are the most popular speech-based digital radio format. And podcasts being around since for so long, as I keep saying, I started podcasting in 2009. So if you're looking at a South African podcast, 2009, you can imagine what the international podcasters were doing just prior to that. And when we say podcasting, we're talking independent, once again, independent creative content. Well, the term podcast is also used to describe when we are creating, like let's say something's gone out on air, right? And we want to now go and edit and just post that up there, a particular interview or a cool feature or a particular moment, or even news, let's say news bulletins that are, they go out at particular times. People maybe might have missed the news bulletin, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever it may be, but it'll be, let's say, fed through on streams that are on X or again, like I say, on Iona or whatever it may be. So those are not to the truest form, like what a podcast actually is. It's an independent, unique piece of content that is again obviously shared to a stream for consumers, right? Anyway, but it's a good starting point is to think of it as internet radio on demand. So International Podcast Day, you should go and have a look at that. As what we said there was a couple of references in the previous lesson. The listening experience is such that you can listen to audio on your computer or cell phone, of course, as you know, and the streaming is actually cost effective. So we know that we stream podcasts and it doesn't eat away at our data, right? We know that we can stream hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's not going to eat a lot of our data. Maybe it might take about 100 megs or so. Let's say about a 3 hour podcast or so, right? But it's quite if it's a good product, well, why not? We're ready to spend quote unquote money, right? However, these are not the only devices that you can play a podcast from, which is obviously your computer and your cell phone, right? Podcast technology can carry video content as well as audio, which is what we call then a vodcast, like our very popular uh, uh, MacG podcast, right? Okay, so a vodcast. What am I saying? Vodcast, because it is video based, right? So a podcast also allows the listener to enjoy a piece of audio content at their own convenience, especially because it's the majority of them are long duration, long time podcasts. So in other words, they are about 45 minutes, they are an hour, some of them hour 20 minutes. A lot of people can't really consume or can't tolerate more than about an hour at a maximum. Yes, we do have a lot of popular podcasts that are trending around the world that are in the top 10, should I say, that are much longer than that. But those are our streamed shows, you know. So we also need to know and understand that. Listen, I mean, you anything beyond an hour now, you're actually stretching it. But we don't always have an hour just to sit and listen to something, right? Different for video. I'm saying like let's say watching a movie or watching a series, but for audio consumption, we might want to just pause, come back to, let's say, minute 14, minute 25, whatever it is, depending on maybe on, like I do often on a treadmill. Like when I'm sitting there, I know I've got, let's say, about 50 minutes on a treadmill. I'd like to listen to something that around about is about half an hour, 35 minutes. And then, because it's super boring and irritating on a treadmill, but I don't want to listen to an entire podcast, maybe. But I know that maybe when I get into the car, I might want to listen to the rest of it. Maybe it is a 40, 45 minute, 51. Right. Anyway, however, what makes a podcast truly unique and what the concept of casting means is how it can instantly deliver its content to multiple distribution points through an RSS feed. So a really simple syndication, right? So for example, let's say if I've got an account, which I have an account on Iono, it has I use the RSS feed or because I pay Iono, they will stream that to Apple and they'll stream it to Spotify. Right. Okay. Spotify is a kind of stock standard with Iona, just as a sidebar. So again, I mentioned that Iona is a South African service. And so this is why you should host your podcasts there, because you can just access them as well. And also, local is lekker, right? So proudly South African. But again, it does stream through the RSS feed directly, that you don't have to update anything except the one place that you are hosting your podcast. I'm also on, I think it's good costs, right? Or good pods. That makes more sense. I want quite a few where the RSS feed is is I just went and I created an account, and then I just include the RSS feed. It just feeds it off there every time I update. Anyway, so well-known public or podcast servers such as iTunes and Stitcher are examples of multiple distribution points then as well. Listeners can subscribe to podcasts. So usually a free service. You can, if you like the podcast or the podcaster, right, you can just say that you want to follow them, subscribe to it, so that you can get some updates in your mail. I don't think they really go as far as WhatsApp. I think it's a little bit intrusive, but via your mail you get some updates saying that okay, there's a new podcast out, or there's an update here, or this is the weekly newsletter, whatever it may be. And what makes the podcast world so exciting is that podcasts can be produced by almost anyone wanting to share ideas and communicate with the world that is around them. And you can really start one with it as little as just your phone, a good like some good planning, good obviously like presentation, and go ahead and some obviously good editing skills as well, right? To produce a relatively professional amateur podcast that can be liked by a whole bunch of people. All right. Okay. So, especially also with podcasting, it's really important to know that the content really needs to be great and needs to be super, super, super unique. So, very niche for you to actually know that you are going to create something cool and that people are going to want to listen to. So, on the 2nd of June 2019, the following lists were the 10 biggest podcasts from Pod Bay. So let's have a look at some of them, or let's look at all 10. At number one was the Shrink Next Door, which its format was psychological and it was storytelling. So that's pretty cool. That sounds nice. The Joe Rogan Experience, which is still popular, and again, like I say, it's one of those Howard Stern type things because Howard Stern, obviously, I mean, just set the premise for all of this. Talk and comedy, the Chernobyl podcast, so a TV talk show, gangster capitalism, documentary style podcasting, the Chelsea Handler, so Life Will Be the Death of Me. Let's talk with Chelsea Handler, who is a very popular celebrity in the States. It was her first ever podcast series featuring candid, hilarious conversations about her life, her work, and where she was headed to next. The Crime Junkie, so true crime stories, white lies, documentary style podcast. Also, remember, radio dramas have been a thing since well, I mean the Stone Ages, right? And podcasts are quote unquote not new because it's just if we want to package a radio documentary, we have to banner it under podcasting right now. To Live and Die in LA, so it's a real life documentary style podcast. Love those types of podcasts, right? My Favorite Murderer, news, true crime stories. Again, one of the most popular formats of podcasting in the world. And then Call Her Daddy Reality Talk. All right. So delivery methods for multi-platform content. What does that multi-platform mean? It means to be able to host different platforms, be able to engage on different platforms, be able to go and promote on different platforms. And what do we have to think about? We spoke about delivery methods or delivery or content delivery in the previous lesson. Digital platforms have given freedom to voice where there wasn't anything like this before, right? So you have a voice. If you want an opinion, you can go and share it. You can go and air it. You can go and broadcast it if you'd like. And 10 to 1, you probably will get at least a listen or two. There'll be someone out there that's going to hear what you got to say. But just because you say anything, anytime, anywhere on digital doesn't mean that it's actually good content, right? So, as I keep mentioning, I think the stats are just above 5.5 unique podcasts out there. So, unique active podcasts. And a large majority, the mass majority of those are really terrible content or quality, right, at the same time. Yeah, just because you have access to the internet doesn't mean you're going to access everything. It's very exhausting. There's information overload on a daily basis. And so the thing is, we'll pick and choose what we come across, as well what is recommended, what we feel is trending, and what might fit in with our current life. Whatever it is that we're currently interested in. So maybe I suffer from a certain illness. So maybe I don't have osteoporosis. I'm not a woman. But let's say I want to know more about osteoporosis, right? Then I'd go and I'd find there'll be, trust me, there'll be a ton and tons more that are very niche, very centralized, very unique podcasts that cater to just understanding and living with osteoporosis, for example, right? And there'll be different delivery, as say, different delivery contexts. There could be narratives, there could be journals, there could be, like I say, interviews. There could be, it could be, I say, professionally medically based, whatever it is. Many different ways we can go and consume it, and perhaps again, because I'm maybe fixated on that, and my life is being dominated by that, I would want to maybe consume more than just one way of being able to tell me about how and what and why and when and whatever it is about the osteoporosis, let's say, focus in my life, right? Anyway, the method of delivery or how the audience actually receives the content is what has brought radio into the hands, houses, minds, and garages of normal people, right? And so, before delivery, good content must first be produced. Creating good audio content takes skill and takes practice. And how do you get skill and practice? Well, you start by just doing, right? And then going to go see this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this worked nicely, this worked well, this worked okay. Let me just go and tweak this. And also experience, man. That's the thing. Just putting the work. That's why. There's nothing new about that, right? The more you do something and the more you do something diligently, right, proactively and kind of intuitively, as well as curiously, right, you're going to build something that is better. You as a professional will build a better product at the end of the day. Let's look at the next slide. Today, you have unlimited access, right, of anything that you want. As I said, it's overstimulation, right? But at least when we do get bored of one thing, because we have such a low attention span and toleration for anything in this day and age, just because of the nature of the way that we live, you can go and find some kind of satisfaction, right? A satisfactory product somewhere else. You can also maybe get tired of TikTok and maybe just want to go to Facebook or want to only watch YouTube for a long time because it services what you feel like you need at that particular point in your day or in your week or in your year, in your current state of life, right? The freedom to create content results in other issues. So time and focus, right? We have to be consistent. Do we have the time to put in a good production? Do we have the focus to create something cool and unique and interesting? The more content that is developed, the more possibility that there's something out there that's better than you, that it's been done before, that you think you that hasn't been thought of, but it's been thought of maybe 1,000 or 100,000 times before. Maybe 100,000 people are currently talking about exactly what you think you are talking about that is original, but you're not putting in different dimensions at the end of the day. Yes, many people will talk about the same things, and many content creators will produce the same type of content, right? And post it online. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if you don't put dimensions you as a one dimension, understanding that you need newer, fresher angles, like understanding that listener community or that consumption community, understanding relevance, understanding originality, creativity, all of that type of stuff adds different dimension, which is more than likely going to allow you to come up with something better and something more unique, something that stands out from well, I say your direct community, I suppose, of competitors, right? So Geller, in a textbook and Beyond Powerful Radio, says that multitask friendly ability in radio is greatly underutilized as a strength in the world of digital. So radio itself actually trains people to multitask while listening. That's why radio stations constantly say things like tune in on your way to work or listen while you drive, because we do many different things at one particular point in every single day. We can listen, we can hear the birds outside, for example, while we are, I don't know, trying to decide on a outfit, and while, let's say, coffee is busy brewing, and you've got your favorite radio station playing, wherever it is, maybe on your phone or whatever it may be. Right, there's four different things at that particular point. The shower might also be warming up, whatever it is, switch it on. You have a much bigger, larger, and more complex capacity to comprehend things and process things. I get that, but like for example, there's five different things that you're doing at one particular point. We're very able to do many different things and multitask, right? So what we want to do when we are creating content, let's say radio wise, or let's say just in terms of media wise, right? If we are trying to be something that is not abrasive, that is not irritating, that is not jarring, and that is again at the end of the day something that's friendly. I mean, it's palatable at the end of the day. Then we've got to also know this not only makes content compatible with what people are doing daily, it can also enhance and add value to what they are doing. And the synergy of content on a website that of traditional radio ads and that of traditional radio adds more value and creates a lasting experience for people. So a whole like really like again, as I said, many dimensions in one product as well, but also presence and kind of that very alive. It's very it's a living product at the end of the day. As you can see, I'm gonna rather just move through the entire lesson so that it's done and not split it up into parts. Let's look at the internet. So success of websites, blog sites, whatever it is measured in terms of hits and analytics, right? So knowing that when you are starting a website, that you should obviously use Google Analytics and set that up and know how to read how long people are staying on your site, what they're engaging on, what page, what parts, what pages of that particular site are they clicking on, like what's the SEO optimize, so the search engine optimization, what factor does that bring into it? Again, people that are returning to the site, people that are subscribing to the site and to your newsletters, very important for us to understand at the end of the day, like online behavior. According to Geller, this is how you find listeners for online radio. A powerful website does what all powerful content does. It informs, entertains, inspires, persuades, and connects people to one another. Right. So we're creating a community online, right, within our own little ecosystem. So, like I said, a landing page at the end of the day, right? Even though the predominant medium of radio is audio, it is important that we know that it lives in many other spaces and places. And so, a website, for example, a landing page that has all the dynamic content that filters into, and I think I showed you mine in the previous as one of it was the post class content, right? I showed you my site there. It's got the dynamic, obviously, feeds from certain social mediums that I'm currently obviously I have accounts on, but also blog posts or whatever it may be, and any updates to the site, whatever, to keep it alive, right? The internet is it's so much more than just an audiovisual experience. Yes, at the base it's audiovisual, but we read it, or we start to, I suppose, at a certain point, when we start implementing augmented realities, right? Which is very, very popular. Let's say in the first world countries right now, we can use your tablet, you can use it's normally a tablet or device that you can use immersive experiences, right? We can almost touch and feel something, right? Because of the way that we interact with a certain, like I say, experience. But we do look at the basis for audio visual and we say visual enhancements, audio enhancements, really important for us as a product. Okay, traditional radio and for the digital space. So a variation of, again, video content, again, understanding where to go and how often to go post podcasts, or like I say, podcasts from stuff that we've done on air. Being wary of scheduling and I say the contextually relevant and obviously an effective and cool and a great experience for a TikTok live or an IG live is very important for us. For many radio stations, the most popular section on a website for themselves, going back to the landing page, is the streaming service where listeners can just say, listen, here's the station, click play here, and then while they're going through and they obviously going to remain on the website while they're listening to the station because the station is being streamed, right? They can also go and maybe be curious to go find out what other shows there are, who are the presenters, what competitions there are, what are the promotions. Maybe find out more about the news. I said like the news department, what they're busy with. In terms of articles and like I said, online content in terms of that. So the landing page is great. The website, okay. Internet duplicates the broadcast and makes it more accessible to streamers. So we don't really see interference, obviously, unless there's a bit of a like a connection drop, whatever it may be. But otherwise, from that, we actually get a nice clear with broadcast or transmission or in this case stream, right? Okay, of what is going on out on air. We get it now here digitally, and we quite enjoy it. I quite like that. I don't think I ever listened to stations on a radio set anymore. According to Geller, develop niche content that you are very passionate about, right? So you've heard me mention that before. Niche content is unique content that also services a very particular part of your community or a particular aspect of what that community is interested in or invested in. And it really comes down to the strength and quality of the content itself. So well constructed content, right? Again, well thought out, the correct guess, the correct questions, the correct angles, whatever it may be, right? And I don't want to repeat myself on and on. So when I see that it's quite straightforward, I'm going to just move on. So it also is common for producers, newsreaders, and operations team managers to develop the website content then. So we have a whole team that is both on air, or should I say, part of the station that is working on that website and cultivating more dynamic content for that. And this is because the internet has infinite space. So whereas radio, we don't have infinite time, we have finite time, right? 24 hours a day to be exact, obviously. But if we look at, for example, Bruce Whitfield is synonymous with 702, right? I don't know if Bruce is still there. I think he is. I think he's in the afternoons, right? Still hosts his 6 o'clock show. But anyway, um, we know was a staple at 702 or is a staple, just iconic, right, with the brand. Anyway, he hosts a series of interviews with solutionists, thinkers, right, sponsored by, at this particular point of printing the textbook, Rand Merchant Bank, while Whitfield is a presenter on air. This interview series is only available as a podcast. So if you trust the brand 702, you trust Bruce Whitfield because you like him, you're going to tend to want to go and listen to the podcast if you are obviously interested in this particular niche sect of what this podcast series is about. So it is promoted obviously on 702 because the platform is there, the reach is over there. Through the use of on-air promotions, presenters mention it through cross promotions or whatever it may be. But Whitfield will also go and play kind of like teaser promos, right? So teaser snippets of what is happening in the podcast so that you can push them over there and direct them over the traffic over, and so we can actually get again a holistic loyalty, right, to this just as one particular aspect of the brand, right? Okay, so we can use on-air radio to promote online audio. A great way to drive traffic from other platforms to the web is through multitasking listeners for those grazing between media platforms. So, what does that actually mean? So, when on-air presenters mention online content, specifically when they are describing visual content. So, for example, let's say getting a tattoo in studio or cutting your hair or something that you have to taste food or whatever it may be, right? Or see the food. Like we'd have to obviously push them to, let's say, a live stream on YouTube so that they can get the full experience. They can actually, drop us something. They can stop listening on air and just see, let's say, go to the YouTube stream, go over, like I say, an almost immersive, not an immersive experience. I'm just liking that word right now. That's completely incorrect to use right there. But you understand we can push and cross promote across. Radio stations also pre-record and make on-air recording of adverts for their own online content because they benefit from online traffic in terms of sales. So we then will go and make sales to a particular client, but make sure that while we are let's say, airing their stuff on the terrestrial platform. Right, we also can go and package them on our on-air products or our digital online products. So it's important at this very stage in our lives, right, that we actually, because there's so many people that now are social media strategists and content strategists and digital marketers, all right, at the end of the day, becoming more and more and more specific. So it was very broad as a job title, maybe about 5, 6 years ago, but now it has a lot of different aspects, right? Different sub markets within this particular umbrella space here, where we can go and actually say, no, you know what, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to go and make sure that I am proactive. I move forward with this brand, so I will go hire a professional who knows how to work with, let's say, optimization of keywords and searches and metadata, as I was mentioning earlier, and how to do an analytics properly and analysis and how to design stuff and how to show us how to design stuff properly and how to write captions and use hashtags and maybe using trending hashtags or not, or what's the difference between, let's say, an IG live and a TikTok live, whatever it may be. The professionals are best suited to first lead. You can obviously lead and then learn, right, from them. Um, but this is not something that right now I'm saying for a professional brand, a corporate brand, or whatever it may be, is something that should go and kind of learn as you go along, you as your own. Rather get someone to direct you, rather do some studying on it, right? A smart radio website has embedded links that allow users to go to other websites. So, for example, we can embed our Spotify's or again, embed our dynamic content into our social mediums, right? So that we can cross promote and push them to go and follow and like and whatever it may be, subscribe. Um, Increase the stickiness. So the length of time that a user remains on a website increases the chance of them seeing and doing things that the station wants them to do, like be somewhere or attend a concert or, phone in for this or send a voice note or a text or whatever it may be, right? Stickiness is the measure of how long somebody stays on a site. On an average, we'll see there how many pages or links they're going to click on, where do they gravitate one from the other, is there affiliate marketing that actually that has brought them here to our site, whatever it may be, right? According to Scott Wolfel, right? Wolfel, I'm guessing is German or Danish, whatever. When developing a website to host content, there are three important questions to ask. One is why would anyone want to spend time here? So how enticing is the content? Is it updated? Is it new? Because when we see, like I was on the YFM site, and I did do this with you in the previous lesson, right? When we saw them, we were like, what? Like there was a latest post from 2018. That was the latest one. That was in the charting, right? And I could just do away with that part of the site completely if you're not going to update it completely. Because then you're saying, well, how new is the rest of the site as well? And you start questioning again the quality and dedication to that, right? And for YFM is a commercial station. They've got the money and they've got the team. So they should be doing that, right? Why would anyone tell a friend about the site, right? What is the strength of this website and what are you doing to promote that to keep them coming back? So again, with even apps that are basically an extension, obviously, of the site, right? That's obviously mobile generated. Like, or are they using the app because there's I don't know, there's advantages, there's particular things that you can only use on the app or only find on the site that you won't find on the social mediums. That are reasons for them to come back and maybe create like a little space in your ecosystem there. Social media, long conversations that we can have about social media, but let's just talk about it, like I say, quite generally here. Shorthand is internet shorthand. It's where we go to write, little captions, postal memes, postal videos, postal lives, whatever it may be, right? But we're not doing anything in a larger sense. It's not formal at any one point. The more formal it is, the better it is because it's more like what other people are doing on social media. So every other person in this world is there recreationally if they're not a content strategist, right? Social media will allow stations and content makers to build relationships with listeners outside of the station as well. And so that where let's say even a radio presenter had a 3 hour job beforehand, they have now a 24-hour job, 3 hours on air and then 21 hours online, right? Social media expands the number of revenue generating options because now we obviously have digital marketing, which costs a lot of money, depending obviously on like the engagements, the impact, and the what's it? Obviously the followers and the subscribers, and we charge accordingly to that. So it's a nice, a great new way or stream of revenue. And social media provides a welcome promotion portal rather than on an obviously overt advertising one, right? So, because we see it on social media, yes, it is getting very exhausting to see every single second space in our feed being an advert, and then every third post we see is someone promoting something from their own brand too. So it's becoming a little bit overly saturated in terms of a space to promote stuff. But I guess, well, if you want to get word out to someone before you use newspaper and use to advertise there. Now we use social media, so we can't really say it's something that's unusual. One of the most important aspects of radio stations using social media is the tone that you want to continuously hold with your consumer base while you're online, right? You need to be very careful as you craft like those posts, how you react to comments, backlashes, whatever it may be, right? And you want to be able to, if you're selling, let's say, brand identity, mission statement, vision statement, whatever it is, culture, like best you be also like appropriating that and promoting that particular narrative while you are online. And so also all the people that work for you and under that brand also have to behave, act, live, breathe, smell, taste, whatever it is, that kind of ethos that your station or your brand is permeating, right? So the best thing by far about social media is the ability to provide engagement and to obviously break down the barriers between what radio stations are, which are quote unquote far away and out of quote unquote reach for each individual, but rather now something that's very, very, very intimate. It's very direct. It's very immediate, right? In terms of, like I say, the interaction aspect, right? The democratization of media gives rise to live brainstorming that allows radio stations to hear and see what people are actually thinking and saying in real time. We can conduct surveys. We can go conduct like our online focus groups. When I say we can even do it by Teams or on, let's say, a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live or whatever it is, we can do so many different things, so many different ways that we can conduct things online. Actually, use it for business, saying corporate services, right? It gives them lots of open views and opinions to craft their content in real time, same stations, because my voice, and to personally respond to people commenting or questioning things on air and online. One more slide here. Today, most people get a multitude of content online without listening to radio. And social media is radio's way of playing in that digital space and disseminating news and information that they do not have maybe the space for on air and so much more online. So really, like, here's an important point here for this reason. That many radio stations employ social only promotions that allow people following online, for example, to win tickets and prizes so we can force them to be part of our community to increase the obviously that digital footprint as well, so that we can obviously charge more in terms of digital marketing, clients, etc. And radio stations use social media also. Uh, that's double there, right? So it also enables those people to share pictures and experiences. We can make it personal, interpersonal, and create that kind of like FOMO, fear of missing out, by using hashtags and handles that support the radio station, right? Okay, and as we've spoken there, just all hands on deck for are closing. Please do this as homework, activity 3B in your textbook. Define in your own words what multi-platform content is. Explain the difference between a radio station that uses the internet to disseminate what it does on air and an individual who creates a podcast and posts it online. Provide 2 reasons why using social media is advantageous for a radio station. All right, have a good week, and I'll see you next week.